Hello and welcome to Talkin Jake. It is September 16th, more than halfway through. Happens quick. There's going to be playoff baseball. In a couple weeks, we'll be talking about the wild card matchups. Did the Braves figure it out? Did the Mets figure it out? Can the Tigers catch anyone? We've got a lot of time to talk about that. Talked a little bit on Talkin Baseball. Today, I'm giving out one of my most prestigious awards. The All-Underrated Team. Yep. A lot of opinions. And, yeah, I think underrated is just interesting because you kind of had to be properly rated. So there were some young guys I ruled out because it was like, well, I think we don't know who they are yet or we didn't rate them yet. That I think I came up with a good list. There was a couple things up for debate. We'll chew through some of the football weekend, as we do, recap. Kamara, back. How about that? They wrote him off, he wrote back. Gino. And yeah, the other baseball main topics, I mean, it feels, I guess, as from a personal standpoint, I don't want to say beating the dead horse, but a little bit, like, you know, it's those final wild card spots. How is the seeding going to play off? The Yankees have gotten a little lead on the Orioles. We'll see if they can maintain that. The Padres and Snakes, how they finish off their wild card seeding is going to be fascinating as they are the last series of the season. And I guess everyone root against the Twins. And maybe that's a little bit because I'm about to see Trevor Plouffe in a couple hours. But if they flunk the dunk, bringing the Mariners or the Tigers back into the equation would be a lot of fun. Kind of like how we've daydreamed about the Mets a little bit, and it's like, ooh, Manaea, Severino, Quintana, not exactly the murderer's row you think of, but they've all been pitching pretty well, and like, don't give the punchy Mets a chance. Imagine if whoever would have to stumble in and see those Seattle Mariners, a Mariners team, Seattle, Gino wrote them off. If the Mariners found a way to get in that top three, going against the Orioles or something like that? I don't know. We're going to have to find that out in the next couple weeks. For now, I think it's the all-underrated team. Brought to you by me. And it's brought to you by DraftKings. Go to the DraftKings Shortsbook. That's mine. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook where you can bet on touchdowns, bet on anything. I got in the mix this weekend. Had a nice college comeback. Bet just $5 and you win $250 in bonus bets instantly. Wow, plus 1 month of NFL Plus Premium. This is one of the best ones they roll out there. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use promo code BAKERS. Bet just $5 on any wager and get $250 in bonus bets instantly. Promo code BAKERS only at the DraftKings Sportsbook. All right, let's head around the horn. You guys know how I like to do it. Maybe you don't. I like to start with a catcher, then do the rest of the infield, and then see what's left there. Catcher, there were a couple options. There was one guy that stood out a little more, and it's kind of interesting for him. It was like a hype, post-hype. And it's the fun thing with underrated because you can point to the top of the list sometimes. Like, I don't know, Cal Raleigh has been incredible. You could point at him and be like, is he underrated? No one has ever talked about him as the number one catcher. Adley was kind of supposed to take the throne, and he has not this year. Anytime you mention a Contreras brother, Patrick Bailey in San Francisco, what Austin Wells has done for our fine Yankee team. But I think the winner for me, for contributing on both sides, offensively and defensively, a little post-hype for Tyler Stephenson of your Cincinnati Reds. Tyler Stephenson was a guy that in 2021, he finished 6th in Rookie of the Year, played 132 games, getting in the mix for the young Reds. He played a lot of catcher, a lot of first base. He had a positive OPS plus. He comes back in 22, 50 games, and he rakes again, but he gets hurt. So over those 50 games, 319 batting average and 854 OPS. Okay, Tyler Stephenson, okay. It's 2023. Here come the Reds. Let's go. He had a bad year. I don't know if it's injury. I don't know if it's something in the swing, bad luck, whatever. A lot of guys have bad years. It's kind of why the greats in baseball are so great. Tyler Stephenson had a 696 OPS. That was an 85 OPS plus because they play in a hitter's park there. So Tyler Stephenson, it was kind of like, all right, everyone kind of moved on. Like, there was health concerns the year before. There was performance concerns the next year. And it was like, all right, I guess we'll see if we see you. Tyler Stephenson has bounced back. 259, a 336 on base, a 785 OPS. That's a 114 OPS plus this year. So he's been 14% better than your average hitter while being a plus defensively behind the plate. And those numbers are fairly in line with his career when you've got the 1 year of bleh and then the kind of season and a half of good. You've got a young baseball player, 28-year-old, former first-round pick. And I think for catcher, it's important to be bringing it on both sides of the list. Both sides. And for this list, I also kind of leaned into that a little more than I thought. It's nice that you can point to either side and be like, hey, they can hit or play defense.
Sort of like the mindset that comes from the word underrated. Almost inherently implies good defense.
Yes, or, I mean,
Doesn't
I guess
have to, but
as we even sneak towards second base, like Andres Jimenez, who's a platinum glove candidate most years he plays, I don't know if he can be underrated because he's kind of known as the defensive guy. So, like, if you're known as that, unless your offense sneaky gets good on us, kind of like when Yachty or Molina just started hitting for a few years in the middle there, everyone was like, this is nice. Tyler Stephenson gets it for me. I told you why it wasn't other candidates, so I won't elaborate. Sorry, Jake Rogers. I was surprised to see where Logan O'Hoppy's numbers are. Some of the triple slash stuff is down just a little bit. Freddie Fermin always comes to mind for me, but when you put his numbers and their numbers against Tyler Stephenson, he's put up a really nice year. Fifth in catcher WAR for Tyler. F-WAR. I'm an F4 guy today. FYI. I like to mix it up. What do you like? Let's go around the horn. First base is actually not one of the sexier ones, so I'll be quick about it. It's an infield that got a lot of shine last year, not so much this year. It's Nathaniel Lowe from your Texas Rangers. The problem with underrated is a lot of the first base lists this year start with Bryce Harper, Vlad Guerrero, Freddie Freeman. Tough. The next guy is kind of one of the I'm underrated, I'm not underrated guys. Christian Walker. Christian Walker, great on both sides. But I think he'd been so underrated for so long, he's become properly rated. That there's Mets fans talking about, let's sign Christian Walker instead of Pete Alonso this offseason. Now, the crop that it really fell down to, and again, I kind of wanted an effort on both sides. First base defensively is kind of tough to judge, unless you're Carlos Santana. He was in the running. And did I drop an old Carlos Santana on the list? I did not. Michael Busch. Again, for me, that's a young player. This guy was a big prospect. The Cubs traded for him with the hopes of him being their first baseman, and he's done that. So I don't know. I mean, he's had a great breakout year. This could be standard Michael Busch, and people look at him as like, yeah, he's a really solid first baseman. I don't have my Michael Busch expectations yet. I think Josh Naylor kind of broke out last year, and he's followed that up. That Josh Naylor's where I'd think. Yandy Diaz won the batting title, and he had a bad start to the year. That for me, Nathaniel Lowe, who when you go around that infield, you mention kind of everyone else on his team. And the other thing is he's not a pure home run hitter, but last year he had 38 doubles. This year he's got a 117 OPS plus. He draws walks, 267, 362. He's just a consistently good hitter, and he's now shown that the past 4 seasons, while winning a Gold Glove, he's got a Gold Glove and a Silver Slugger in his bag. Christian Walker fans pissed off he did that last year. That I think Nathaniel Lowe, for what he provides to a lineup, a consistent lefty bat with solid first base defense, I think he's gotten overlooked. And Fangraphs, while playing first base this year, positional splits today, baby. He ranks out as the 6th best first baseman. Sure. Why not? Said that was going to be a quick one, and it kind of wasn't. Not sure why. Good for Nathaniel Lowe. Wasn't a lot of other sexy picks there. Second base, a guy that is, I don't want to say flummoxed this program and talking baseball. He's a guy that we've seen for a while. He's a guy that has a name of another player in the league. And he's a guy that's just kind of been overshadowed throughout for whatever reason. It's Luis Garcia Jr. of your Nationals. How about a little natitude, babe? This kid got called up in the 2020 season at the age of 20. He played 40 games that year. 20-year-old COVID season for Luis Garcia Jr. And he struggled. And then he comes back the next year. He only plays 70 games in a full season. And a very similar stat line. That if you're playing at that age, it's kind of like, okay, what's coming next? 2022, he takes a slight leap, a couple more games, a 101 OPS plus. Last year, he kind of took the step back that he had a 90 OPS plus, played 122 games, but I think, it's kind of hitting one of these weird spots. Like Luis Garcia Jr., not that he's going to start getting paid, but we kind of
hit free agency at a young age. And
he's 23. You've played 3 years in the majors. The Nats are figuring this all out. Over 122 games, 9 homers, 9 steals, a 90, wasn't in Gold Glove consideration. This year, the light bulb has gone off a bit. 282, 320, a 763 OPS, 16 homers, 21 steals. So I doubt he's going to get to 2020 at this point. But as a second baseman, if you're getting 116 OPS plus, and he grades out pretty well defensively, Luis Garcia, whenever anyone's talking second baseman, I feel like he does not get brought up. The guys ahead of him on positional F4 so far this year, it's Ketel Marte, who him and Christian Walker on other lists could be your right side of the infield. Jose Altuve, pretty properly rated. Marcus Semien, yep. Jonathan India, his bounce back. I could have given a similar speech to Stephenson, but we also kind of, how does everyone know Jonathan India? Baseball people do. And then Nico Horner, I feel like he was last year's kind of guy that does it on both sides. Offensively, it hasn't been an impressive year for him. Bryce Terang could have very much been in this discussion, but where his season numbers are kind of landing, I think Luis Garcia Jr., he was the guy for me. I don't want to say unopposed, as Colt Keith is figuring it out, but Luis Garcia Jr.'s kind of been there. And we've kind of haven't noticed him. Which brought on the shortstop position. Shortstop always interesting, right? Because these are the guys we still kind of know best. The top of this leaderboard is a special crop. I'll read the names down, and this is by their F4 by position. Bobby Witt, Gunnar, Lindor, Ellie De La Cruz, Willie Adames, who if we were doing a high-class underrated, I think he would have had an argument. I think if you follow ball, you kind of know Willie Adames. Corey Seager, Carlos Correa, Dansby Swanson, Trey Turner. I mean, that's soup to nuts. The top 9 that you're like, damn, those are ball players. The next group is where I knew my answer was going to come out of. There's Yankees, Anthony Volpe. Mason Wynn from your St. Louis Cardinals. And Zach Neto from the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Where have I landed? I'm going Neto. Neto came up. He kind of got called up during the Ohtani times that everyone was like, ooh, who's this Wunderkind? Maybe he can help Shohei. It was early, and he contributed in a right. But, no one's really kept too many tabs on the Halos this year. It's been a tough season. Anthony Volpe, we've watched a lot of him. The defense has been spectacular. I have no qualms with the defense. He's been great. The offense, he has not been. The 294 on base percentage, the 369 slugging, 26 steals is still pretty nice. But offensively, he hasn't been a threat this year. And there's been some ugly butter knives of late. Mason Wynn. I very much enjoy Mason Wynn. Electric ball player. That arm strength is insane. He's got 13 homers, 11 stolen bases, scored a ton of runs. He's been kind of stable for the Cardinals this year. He could have been the pick, but I think Mason Wynn gets a lot more love than Zach Neto. Neto? No one's even sure. Neto?
Reasonably certain it's Neto.
You'd think so. Zach Neto is having a 2020 season. 21 homers, 29 stolen bases. So he has, Volpe and Wynn, 11 homers and 13. So Neto's got the closer guy, Wynn, by 8 homers. And 29 steals. That's more than either of the guys. And the triple slash is pretty, 252, 323, a 442 slug from a guy that plays plus defense at shortstop. The Fangraphs numbers do like Wynn and Volpe slightly better defensively. But Neto, the glove was kind of his calling card as he got called up. That the season he's been having, I think it's underrated. There should be one other fan base that's a little mad at me. It's the Rockies and Zeke Tovar, who I could have made an argument for this list as well. But Neto gets it for me. If Zach Neto was doing what he did this year in a Boston, or even if he was on the Dodgers team, I think we would talk a lot more about Zach Neto. Rounding out the infield, I'm going to be high and tight. Third base didn't have a great answer. I'm putting Eugenio Suarez. I feel like I've been talking about him a lot recently. My other option was go high end with Matt Chapman. I could have dropped Mark Vientos, but I feel like everyone's kind of in on that. And again, that's kind of my rookie, I don't know. This might just be Mark Vientos. And that'd be sick.
Yeah. Among the challenges of this list is what's underrated, what's a breakout.
Right. I think and hope Mark Vientos is just this cat. And for me, I'll go down the third base list. Jose Ramirez, Matt Chapman, Rafael Devers. Eugenio Suarez is listed fourth by Fangraphs with Bregman, Bohm, Arenado, Paredes behind him. Okay, if you want to talk about Paredes, if you want to talk about Joey Ortiz, Jordan Westberg, again, it starts to get into the young guy thing. Josh Smith in his breakout earlier this season. Eugenio Suarez has been around for a while. We get caught up in his numbers. We were doing the math if he's going to hit 400 big league home runs. He's been one dotting since the All-Star break. He's leading in homers since the All-Star break. Ohtani may have clipped him over the weekend. Either way, the fact that's any part of the discussion. And if I really want to be rude to Devers, who Fangraphs rates him out slightly negative defensively, if you were doing quote-unquote two-way third baseman, positive on offense and defense, it's Ramirez, Chapman, and Suarez. So again, maybe you could have brought Matt Chapman in the mix. He just signed for $151 million. So you're out, Pop. Enjoy that basement. Let's round out the team with an outfield and a DH. You know what? I'm going to do DH quickly because I thought it was going to be sexier. I'm putting Brent Rooker. It's obvious. He plays in Oakland. If he didn't, I think we'd all know Brent Rooker a lot more. He kind of had what we thought was his breakout last year. And he's done so much better than that. He's got 37 homers. He's been one of the best hitters in baseball, full stop, end debate. The I wanted to put Jock Peterson in here because I'm big on the Jock Hive and what he does year in, year out. But in a way, it's been Jock. And Brent Rooker has been toe-to-toe with Yordan, Marcelo Zuna, kind of Ohtani. No one kind of is. But the point is, Brent Rooker has been... It's not like Brent Rooker's good. Like, Brent Rooker has been one of the best this year. That was my version of quick. In the outfield, and as you guys know, I usually like to do you need a center fielder. I can't just put 3 hefty left fielders out here. And I got myself a balanced outfield. So I'll go around the horn, and then I'll give my reasons. Riley Greene made the team for me. JJ Bleday, also on that Oakland roster. And then Victor Robles snuck in for me. I'll reverse engineer this. Victor Robles got let go from the Nats. Talk about post-hype. And he comes over and he just starts bawling for Seattle. I wonder if we've gotten the article yet, like if him and the hitting coach are in love, or if they fix something in his swing, or if it was just change of scenery. It seems like every night he has multiple hits. He's had 2+ hits just the last 4 games. I didn't really know this. And the stolen bases are crazy. In 67 games, he has 25 steals. 0 caught stealing. Let me do some quick math. 67 times 2. Let's see. 7 times 2 would be 14, 140. So let's say in his Mariners 135 games pace, he's on pace for 50 stolen bases. And his OPS is in the high 8s. He's just been out of his mind, and I hope it's real. The Mariners signed him to a contract for next year. I've decided I want to root for it. Go Mariners, go. Go Victor Robles, go. Defense has never been a problem for him. And he's just going nut job. So he makes the list. I hope it's real. I'm ready to be hurt by him. Riley Greene's the guy that's probably on the furthest end of the spectrum where people could be like, dude, Riley Greene underrated? Like, he's really good, man. You're right. Riley Greene is really good, dude. He, top prospect, showed some signs and was good. He's kind of taken that to a next level that, dude, he's at a 5.2 WAR on this season. Yeah. An 848 OPS on the year, 23 home runs, extra base hit machine. He's going to end up with over 50. Wait for that for JJ Bleday. And yeah, like, he was an all-star this year. I guess the point for me is, and it's where underrated comes in, Riley Greene is one of the best players in baseball. Like, I feel like I just said full stop with Brent Rooker, and I don't talk like that. But yeah, he's had a little bit of a lefty problem, although he hit 2 home runs off lefties over the weekend. And on Talkin Baseball, I listed all the left-on-left hitters with home runs above him. And it's all household names, baseball household names. That brought him up to a 726 OPS versus lefties. And unlike Jock being on the Tigers, he's going to get a chance to play versus lefties. And that's the only way to get better. That he's an 888 OPS against righties, a 504 slug. Riley Greene against right-handed pitching, he is one of the best hitters in baseball. And it's just starting for him. He's 23. He's a big part why the Tigers are in the mix at all. And I don't know, if you're around baseball, you're like, yeah, Riley Greene, good. He's going to end up having a 6-WAR season. That he is a full-blown baller, and I think people need to know. For my last spot, I am putting JJ Bleday out there. I thought about doing a whole thing. I forget if it was for an award on Talkin Baseball. The A's and the Marlins traded, which always gets people jacked up. But if you remember, they traded for Jesus Luzardo. It was for a Starling Marte rental. The A's punted on Luzardo, and it was like, all right, whatever. Like, at the time, it was probably like, hey, the A's are going for it. This is sick. Luzardo goes over to Miami, and he was lights out, one of the best young pitchers in baseball. Not this year. Numbers are bad. Think he's been banged up a little bit. Either way, it was kind of like LOL Kim Ang Marlins cooked. Because they got Jesus Luzardo from a Starling Marte rental. There was a trade before last season that was A.J. Puck for J.J. Bleday. J.J. Bleday, a former first-round pick, and he had been traded a couple times. That sometimes you get nervous about those kind of guys. Is it something with their makeup? Do teams just not... Is there a fatal flaw that teams think aren't going to click? Oakland trades for him, and they trade A.J. Puck, another very talented lefty that everyone's like, oh, no, baby, what is you doing? A.J. Puck's probably going to go ball out for Miami. Long story short, A.J. Puck is now balling out in the Arizona Diamondbacks' pen, but J.J. Bleday has given them one of the best center field seasons in Oakland A's history. 43 doubles, 20 homers. So 60, I was going to say 63 plus 4, 67 extra base hits. Going to end up with 70 extra base hits on the season for J.J. Bleday. 125 OPS plus playing in that ballpark. The Fangraphs defense doesn't necessarily love him, but it also doesn't hate him. And yeah, man, it's funny. Go check out the outfield list on Fangraphs, or I'm sure Baseball Reference gives you something too. Let me just go down the list real quick let me show you what I was looking at, and you guys can interpret in your own way. Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, sure. Jarren Duran, kind of the breakout season, and everyone's kind of been talking about.
You know he's racking up some base running. Cool.
4, 5, 6, Jackson Merrill, Riley Greene, who I decided to tap on, and Jackson Trio. So the two Jacksons are listed in the top 6. As they're fighting out for Rookie of the Year. Right below them is Colton Cowser, who is also fighting out for AL Rookie of the Year. Byron Buxton. I debated putting him on there just because it's like, fuck, this guy's so good. This guy's so good.
Even this year when we haven't even had, like, the Byron Buxton week, it feels like.
When he plays, he hits home runs and he can still get balls, I guess, if he wants. The defense liked him that I didn't know.
The games played is so far below.
Yeah.
So good.
And then the other names that we end up running into, Profar, who's been one of the stories of this season, Corbin Carroll, who was looking like a failed season, and now he's all the way back up. Brenton Doyle could have had an argument here. Sorry, Rockies fans. After winning the Gold Glove, what he's done offensively, he very easily could have made this list. I thought about putting our guy Ian Happ on there, just for how, steady Eddie Ian Happ has become as a baseball player. Is he underrated? People would have read through that, because I like me some Ian Happ. The outfield situation has been bizarre this year, between Ronald getting hurt, blaming Ronald Acuna for all the outfield problems in baseball. That's just dumb. So that's my all-underrated team. Again, I told you all the pain points along the way. Please feel free to comment below on who you thought I missed and who I didn't. I think my offense and defensive contributions, and if you're, too young, I should double-check some of my... J.J. Bleday had... He's 2.5 years of being not good. And I think even if
he's post-hype enough.
Even if you know he's being good, I don't think people know how good he's being. Whoa, little wordplay there. Yeah. And then, Riley Greene, I think everyone thought his breakout last year was who he was, and his OPS plus is 20 points higher this year. So maybe you think of that as a natural progression, but I think Riley Greene has entered himself into the chat as one of the best players in baseball. It's a heavy statement. Wow.
Yeah, he and Neto are the two that are people might hear the breakout conundrum and be like, well, those two. It's Riley Greene's putting up a 6-WAR season at 23 that people didn't see coming, big jump, and Neto is the numbers aren't insane, just hey, that's really solid.
Yeah, and I hate to bring Volpe into this. If Anthony Volpe had Zach Neto's numbers, boy, would you know a lot more about Anthony Volpe. He deserves his flowers. And I hope there's more in there. I hope we're adding them to, I guess they can't be on more underrated lists. That's kind of the whole point, right? Maybe they can. We make the rules. You make your own. Comment below who I missed, who should have been there, and who should have been talked about in the football segment. Let's talk a little football. Go through the weekend, the first normal weekend, quote unquote, of football. Start off with a scary Thursday night. Tua. Yikes. Again, not why you're listening to Talkin Jake or coming to get my inside info. It was kind of wild seeing the internet and the talking heads get all their votes in on what Tua should and shouldn't do. I mean, I'm kind of like a what did the doctors say kind of cat. I mean, doctors are probably saying, no, don't play. I think everyone says, no, don't get concussions, but it's pretty interesting when Tua's owed a lot of money, which people are saying, like, if he calls it, he would still collect on that money. That's none of my business.
None of my business.
And I'm a Ryan Russillo guy, and you guys know this. And Russillo was like, you know, guys like playing sports. like Tua's skill in life up until this point has been playing football. They're like, kind of, if he wants to play, he should be playing, but he should also be doing that with a lot of advice from older people and doctors, because when you're young, you can't view things through the right lens. That I don't know the answer, but it's scary and it sucks for him. And I don't want to say I've been anti-Tua, but when he's played well, he's played a lot better than I thought Tua was going to be at the NFL level. It seems like he still wants to play. Achan had a monster game when we wrap up with some fantasy talk. But Buffalo wins 31-10. Defensive score. And yeah, it's just tough for that Miami. Can they beat good teams? They beat a Jaguars team that doesn't look good. They lost to a Bills team that looks good. Tough. No Friday or Saturday funny business or even an early game, which I want to check next week. Are we getting a Euro game? No Europe game next week. When's that start? Week 4? I got to wait till week 5 to watch someone play NFL in Europe? What is this, Roger? He's going to be on next episode of Talk with us. Looks like Jets at Vikes at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Wow.
October 6th. We might be watching a little baseball around then, too. Anyways, back to week 2. The 1 p.m. games. I think there was 10 games at 1 p.m., which is kind of like the max they can do. A little bit of overload. We were here with the Talkin Giants guys watching them. One of the teams and stories, the New Orleans Saints. Hello. They light up the Dallas Cowboys. How about them? Kamara with a 4-score game, like I joked about before. And everyone was kind of out on him before the season. I was a little surprised on the running back meter. Again, I think a lot of people try to be a year. They kind of do the Belichick. They want to be a year ahead than a year behind on the running backs, because it does just end oddly quick. Like the two that jump out for me recently, Dalvin Cook went from like best top 3 running back to almost nothing instantly. Who's the other? Oh, Le'Veon hurt me. I guess 2 guys that went to the Jets. Come on, Jets won. But those 2 just happened so quick.
Yeah, those are 2 recent,
Like those 2 guys were, if they re-sign with their team, we expect them to be a top running back again. They didn't, and it was over, which is just crazy.
It's weird how, that position specifically, it happens so fast.
How is Zeke back to being the Cowboys running back? Explain that to me another time. New Orleans balls out. This game becomes a blowout. Derek Carr's numbers were video game stuff. Let's be honest, no one really knows what to do with the Saints. Their offense has been the best offense in football. Rashid Shaheed has become a full-blown one of the best deep threats in the league, which is kind of sick. Like, he took the next step on that. And this was a team that kind of became like a joke a little bit. It's like, okay, the Superdome's cool. They played decent defense. Nobody's in on Carr. With Kamara looking good, with Shaheed getting open. And they've got like a wide receiving core now. I mean, Olave, he's supposed to be that guy for him. Did he have the biggest game? 4 for 81. We'll take that. I mean, dude, Carr was 11 for 16. This was a Madden game. It was just when they did something, they scored. Dak Dak, the Cowboys, I don't know what to do with it. I don't think they know either. And I will preface this, which is really tough because this is me saying almost like a nothing matters anyways. These first 2 weeks of the season are still preseason-ish. A lot of starters don't play leading up until the first game. So this second game is almost like your follow-up, do we have our sea legs? That I don't know. Everyone's going to take their shots at the Cowboys. Saints in that division, they've got a shot. Although the Buccaneers, did everyone have it wrong? 44-19. I mentioned the Bucs, so let's segue at it. Grindy. Bucs Detroit. Lions game. Goff and Mayfield, 2 guys written off. The Bucs come into Detroit and get it done. Holy cow. Baker was making plays with his legs and his arms. It feels like all of those people in Tampa have just found their second home. Between Baker Mayfield, who we got the clip of him being a scout D lineman for the Panthers. That was all over the internet today. Tough day for Carolina. But yeah, him and Todd Bowles, kind of these second life quarterback head coach combo, that to go into Detroit and get that victory. Tampa Bay is feeling great, and part of the reason is Godwin looks good, and so does Mike Evans, and Baker can get them the ball. Bucs and Saints 2-0. Not a lot of people had that coming into this season. Other 1 o'clock games that jumped out. Green Bay, Indy, my God. If you watched, credit to you, I suppose. Green Bay wins with Malik Willis at quarterback. Kind of a what is you doing, baby, for Indy. The Anthony Richardson ride is going to be a crazy one this year. Jets-Titans. Talk about a pivot point for 2 teams. One of them was going to end up 0-2. It ends up being the Titans. Will Levis with a couple more disaster class plays, which is just going to be the book on him until he makes that stop. Rodgers and the Jets get an NFL road win. They're 1-1. That Niners game was going to be tough. Rodgers has had moments of Rodgers. They've also had moments of Jets. And like Rodgers doesn't throw for a lot of yards in this game, and I think he has some crazy stat. He hasn't thrown for 300 yards since like mid-22. It's been a while, and he's getting older. But Breece Hall looks good. Garrett Wilson looks fine. They got to find a way to get them the ball a little bit more. Braylon Allen, youngest player in the league at running back, he looked good for them. Jets get a road win in the NFL. Did see a lot of Jets people in Nashville, which that's fun for them. And Rodgers still getting his sea legs under him after missing a whole season. So a pretty nice win for Los Jets. Speaking of nice wins, Minnesota, man, they beat the Niners in Minnesota. Brock throws for 300. Jordan Mason runs for 100. If I told you that before the game, what would you have said? Minnesota wins. Like a lot of NFL games, a couple big turnovers kind of end up factoring in this, but Darnold has a solid day at the office that with tall, handsome Kevin O'Connell, that's kind of what he does. They are 2-0. We get a Justin Jefferson 97-yard highlight that changed the game in this one. I read the stat, Brock Purdy has 2 regular season NFC losses, both to the Vikings. What's that about? Brian Flores, their defensive coordinator, he's the coach in Miami that the front office actively coached against him winning. Mm-hmm. Brock Purdy, there's a good clip of Brock dapping him up after the game, and he's like, man, you run a great scheme. Kind of weird, but we just got the clip, and I don't know. It's nice, football guy stuff. But the Niners lose. Let's see how quickly they can put that in their rear view. They have at Rams next week, which that's a whole Shanahan, McVay. Which one dominates who? I'm having a brain fart right now. I think it's McVay dominates Shanahan. Hold up. Kyle Shanahan is 9-4 against McVay. Excuse me. So I had that backwards. That's always fun. Same coaching tree. Seattle, New England, no thanks, really. Seattle pulls it out in overtime. My guy Gino. DK Metcalf had a big day. There was big fantasy days, which was fun to see. Kind of coming off of week 1 where there was nothing happening. Giants, Washington football team, had to watch that whole game. Tough. Giants didn't have a kicker because Gano gets hurt on the first play. Otherwise, they probably win this game like handily. And they end up losing it. Jane Daniels not passing the ball downfield a lot of screens on QB running, which really frustrated the Talkin Giants guys. Did I pick that right? Am I against the spread league? I did. I'm 2-0 again. Whatever. Sorry to do that in their face, but had to happen. Man, one of the things that sometimes football seems to make sense, the Chargers with Harbaugh going to Carolina. Carolina, a disaster, as bad as the first game can go. Los Angeles came in and ran the damn ball. Dobbins for 131. Herbert only has to throw for 130. They dumped 26-3 on the road. West Coast team coming east. Bing, bong, bing. Bryce Young is getting benched this week for Sam Darnold. Yo.
Even worse, Andy Dalton.
Wow. It is. Damn. Are they both redheaded? Am I canceled?
Kinda.
Shit. I knew it would happen. I just didn't know when. Love me some Chargers. All in on them. They have an identity. They believe in what they're doing. Harbaugh's kind of the best. He beats up Herbert every game. He does like the pad check, but he wails on him. They're crazy people. The Harbaughs are crazy people, but they have the perfect outlet in what we like to call American football. Cleveland beats Jacksonville. No thanks. Jacksonville's 0-2. They should be probably 2-0, but it would be like a hideous 2-0. Brian Thomas Jr. looks good. I guess that's a talking point if you want it. Cleveland wins a road NFL game. Nobody likes Deshaun. I'll pass. The other story from 1 o'clock, maybe the story, the Las Vegas Raiders upset Baltimore. Baltimore had a 10-point lead late. Vegas, Gardner Minshew started finding his weapons. Devontae Adams, Brock Bowers. It's kind of fun. It was kind of fun, Las Vegas Raiders football. And I don't know. I had a daydream this morning. What if Gardner Minshew's just the guy for them for like 6 years? How perfect would it be? Minshew and the Raiders, just grindy. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I know Devontae Adams had some sick catches. It was cool to see him back. Ended up with him in a fantasy league or two just because he was the kept slipping guy this year because it's like, okay, so he's getting older. He's in Las Vegas. They stink.
Who's going to throw
Yeah,
that?
and it was just like, I don't know. Is he going to demand a trade, and then what offense is he going to be in? No, he had a big game. They come back against them. No, the Baltimore people I saw weren't panicked. Baltimore's had 1 or 2 of these every year. It's tough that it had to go down like this. Good for the Las Vegas Raiders and Antonio Pierce, who turned things around for them a little bit last year. They might have, I don't know what they have going, but maybe they're not as bad as you may have thought the Las Vegas Raiders would be. That shifted us into the afternoon slate. Rams, Cardinals boat racing. Marvin Harrison Jr., after one of the worst debut games, comes in and balls out. Has one of the biggest fantasy weekends. Him, James Conner, and Kyler get it done in every facet. Man, they brought it to the Rams. I don't know what to do with it. I can't wait to see the rematch in L.A. And see if the Rams get a little more up for that. Or maybe Arizona with healthy Kyler is going to be more of a problem than we thought. I do want to get Arizona Cardinals head coach. I want to give him some love. Jonathan Gannon. He had them fighting even last year better than we thought. And then I think their coordinator, Drew Petzing. Petzing?
Right.
No, I thought it was someone else. Happy for them, but now we got a Drew Petzing shout out on the show. Pittsburgh 13, Denver 6. Started Steelers defense in my fantasy leagues. I like the Broncos. Bo Nix is a rookie against a really good Steelers D whenever TJ Watt's out there. Steelers are 2-0 with Justin Fields. Shout out to Tomlin. Dude, there was a thing that came out. Again, I know some of my football analysis, you're looking for A gap, B gap. That's not where I live. Mike Tomlin, when they beat a team or win a game, he gives out a revenge game ball to a player who's playing against their former team. So I know that means nothing. Like, that means nothing. But to guys in a locker room, it kind of means something. It means you were on a team, they didn't re-sign you. They didn't offer you as much money in free agency. I forget who it was on the Steelers who got it. But yeah, they got the revenge game ball. Oh, it was Russ. So let's think about this. I guess just in the scope of everything. Mike Tomlin is a good head coach. There's no argument against that. Maybe there's a high-level head coach argument against that. But he's showing it now with Justin Fields and their 2-0. If you're going to be a good head coach, you need to motivate players. That's a way to motivate players. And, hey, you got a guy in Russ that you know isn't the most popular cat in the league and was supposed to be your starting quarterback until we found out he got hurt right before the first game. What's going on with all that? What's a great way to bring him in with the lads a little bit? Giving him a game ball in a game he didn't play in? Probably nothing. Maybe something. Broncos, down bad. What's that?
Just seeing he calls it the petty game ball.
The petty game ball. Yes, that's great. Admit that you're petty. Why not? Go beat your former team. The NFL needs more of that. The game that everyone wanted, Bengals at Chiefs. Burrow versus Mahomes. These guys have played only one-score games, only great games. Joe Burr kind of had the leg up on him early. Mahomes gets another one. A bit of controversy at the end. There was a fourth down pass interference call. If it wasn't fourth down, if it was in the second quarter and it was 2nd and 8, guess what everyone would have said? That's a pass interference. He went through the guy's body before the ball got there. It just is what it is. I realize that's how no one wants the game to end, but he got there a half second early. Ball goes off the helmet. It's pass interference. That sets up Harrison Butker for the game-winning kick. I know I've done this on here before. The kickers are just way too good. I think they had a stat that kickers from 50-plus yards in the NFL at one point were 33 of 36. That's... 50 yards used to be the coin flip. It's automatic. Aubrey's a freak. McPherson's a freak. Tucker's a freak. Who's the other guy that was banging him? I don't know.
Fairbairn.
It's automatic.
We're getting to it, I guess.
60 and in. Mike Gesicki with a good game for fantasy. Justin Pennick's been on that. And the Bengals look good. So I know they're 0-2. I'm probably going to be riding some... Bengals next 2 weeks are Washington and Carolina. Bengals will be 2-2. They've got a fun Baltimore game. Then it's Giants and Cleveland. So Cincinnati at worst. Let's say they even lose to Baltimore. 1, 2, 3, 4. The Bengals will be at least 4-3 by week 7. There's my update to you. Joe Burr and the boys look good. Tough it had to end that way. But that's baseball, Susan. It's football. Your final game, the Kamey Fairbairn Bowl. Pacheco hurt. See what that does to the Chiefs' offense. Chicago at Houston. How was Caleb going to bounce back from his first week? Were the Texans going to continue to roll, and they've got all these talented fantasy guys on offense? Ended up being a little slot fest. Kamey Fairbairn, 4 field goals. A lot of deep ones. Only one TD pass to Nico Collins, which was pretty sweet because he just got an unsportsmanlike conduct before that, getting baited by a player. And he's supposed to be a pretty cool, collected cat, so that was a fun one for him. Man, the Bears had a chance. There was a couple times they got the rock down a score late, and you're like, hey, is Caleb going to do something? No, he still looks a little overmatched. Let's see if the light bulb starts to click. There was no Keenan Allen in this game for them. And I think the Texans are a certain level of good, that they are now 2-0. Tank Dell, who was sliding on fantasy draft boards because it seemed like he was going to be the guy that got hurt the most by Diggs coming into town. I think he is, but also no one really lit it up in this game besides Nico Collins. 8 for 135 and a touchdown. Diggs, 4 for 37. Tank Dell, 3 carries for 16 and 1 rush for -3. Yo. Give DeAndre Swift, I was going to say give DeAndre Swift the ball more, but he was 14 carries for 18 yards. So that was Fantasy Jake kicking in. And you'll see Fantasy Jake tonight watching Atlanta at Philadelphia. Eagles -5.5 point favorites. That line means no one knows what Falcons are going to show up. Are they going to be a week 1 was week 1 and now we're figuring things out? If I had to put money on that, I would say Eagles. I thought they looked pretty good. They looked solid in Brazil while making a couple errors. Atlanta kind of didn't. And I think Kirk in that offense, if it is going to figure itself out, I doubt it's week 2. But that's why they play the games. We wouldn't have said that about Raiders and the Ravens. I wouldn't have said that about Minnesota and San Francisco. I wouldn't have said that about Green Bay and Malik Willis versus the Colts after the Colts had a highlight reel-filled game the week before. And I'm half rooting for Kirk in Atlanta to be good because that would be fun. Like if Drake London and Kyle Pitts are good and Bijan's good and Kirk's getting the ball out, like that'd be a fun team to watch. So I'm rooting for that. I do think Philly should roll in that game. Sounds like I'm going to bet on them, and I probably will at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Probably do one of those. The fellas love a good teaser. Bring the Phillies, bring the Philadelphia Phillies, bring the Eagles probably down to like 2 points. Bring the over-under down to like 40. Boom.
Tickle it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Fun weekend of NFL football. Back in a routine with it. Excited to enjoy a couple weeks before the postseason, and then watch MLB be intimidated by them come the postseason, as they should be. NFL is king. God, get me to week 5 with a London game and some bye weeks. I don't care about that at all. Tell them about Uncle Dan. Subscribe.
Wake and Jake is a production of Dan Patrick Productions, John Boy Media, and Workhouse Media.